Today, Nolly Elementary would like to recognize all of our May Leaders of the Month. We are so proud of these students for their outstanding leadership here at Nolly, in the classroom, on the playground, in the lunchroom, and always displaying the 7 habits. Today, I will recognize each student in each grade level and tell you a little something about them. Okay, starting off in kindergarten, we will start in Mrs. Parton's room. We have Leliana Wellborn, who is proactive and puts first things first. Leliana came to kindergarten with a sweet and soft-spoken personality. Her confidence has grown and she has blossomed into a strong and excited learner. We are very proud of you, Leliana. In Mrs. Rankin's room, we have Andrew Ellabrook, who synergizes. Mrs. Rankin said Andrew has made great gains in kindergarten this year. In the past 2 years, he has grown immensely with accountability, maturity, and kindness towards others. I am very proud of his gentle and humble spirit and kindness to others. He leads by helping others and showing love to all of the students. Mrs. Craig nominated 2 students because she said they have 2 leaders that have really stepped up to do their best. Their first student is Brinley Kidda, who is proactive, puts first things first, and synergizes. Mrs. Craig said for Brinley, with the end of the year looming closer, Brinley is working extra hard. She said, I am proud of her efforts that she puts forward each day throughout the day. Her diligence has helped her peers to keep plugging along too. Way to go, Brinley. I appreciate your efforts. Also in Mrs. Craig's room is Jetty Newhouse. Mrs. Craig said in her quiet ways, Jetty doesn't complain when needing to go the extra mile. She's always applying herself more and stepping up to challenges. I am very proud of her growth mindset and pushing herself forward. Keep up the good work, Jetty. It doesn't go unnoticed. In Mrs. Zukowski's room, we have Iris Johnson, who is proactive and puts first things first. Iris has made learning a priority this year in kindergarten. Her work quality has improved. Iris has also made improvements in putting first things first. Great job being a leader, Iris. And our last leader of the month was nominated by Mrs. Tucker, and it is Stella Mullins, who synergizes and sharpens the saw. Stella is a consistent leader in Mrs. Tucker's classroom. She synergizes with her peers and treats everyone with kindness. You can also find her sharpening her saw by singing and dancing during our brain breaks. Stella is a joy to have at Nolly. Okay, moving on to first grade. Our first nomination was from Mrs. Fiesler, and it is for Lincoln Garner and Harper Knierim for synergizing. Mrs. Fiesler said, I would like to nominate Lincoln Garner and Harper Knierim for May Leaders of the Month for synergizing. She said Harper and Lincoln were working on a color code worksheet and got behind, so they stayed in at recess to catch up on the task. Once Lincoln was done, he asked Harper if she wanted help, and she said that working together would make them get done faster and help them get their goal of going outside. Mrs. Fiesler said, I am so proud of their positive attitudes with learning and with each other. In Mrs. Beard's room, we have Alex Stock. Alex is proactive and puts first things first. Mrs. Beard said Alex has been working so hard in class. He is always willing to help a friend clean up, even if it isn't his mess. He has also been doing an amazing job getting his work done and following directions. Mrs. Beard said, I am so proud of you, Alex. In Mrs. Rector's room, we have Evelyn Parvin, who begins with the end in mind. Evelyn is receiving this month's award because with much grit and determination, Evelyn passed all of her addition time tests and attended the bowling party last week. Way to work hard and reach your goal, Evelyn. Okay, the next nomination is from Mrs. Tucker and Mrs. Fiesler.
Mrs. Tucker and Mrs. Fiesler would like to nominate Poppy Slutz for May Leader of the Month for displaying Habit 1, Be Proactive. Poppy has worked so hard this year on developing and displaying a growth mindset in the classroom. She doesn't give up when things are hard and her perseverance is showing. We are so proud of you, Poppy.
And also in Mrs. Bowser's room, we have Cora Belcher, who begins with the end in mind.
Cora set a goal to improve her reading fluency, accuracy, and comprehension. She persevered and made excellent growth in all areas. I am so proud of you, Cora.
Okay, way to go, first graders. Okay, moving on to second grade. Our first student is in Mrs. Van Dorsten's room. It is Amelia Boyd, who synergizes. Amelia is a leader of the month because she synergizes with her classmates. She is always willing to help and is patient when working in groups. Thank you, Amelia, for your help in our classroom. In Mrs. Grandin's room, she has 3 leaders of the month, Everly McCune, Audrey Wise, and Liam B. for synergizing. Mrs. Grandin's class voted on the May Leader of the Month, and they had a 3-way tie. The resounding habit for all 3 was their ability to synergize. Their classmates said that these young people are so very kind and caring with their words and actions, and they are willing to lend a hand and are true friends in the classroom. Mrs. Grandin couldn't agree more. Way to go, Everly, Audrey, and Liam. In Mrs. Truax's room, we have Lily Fulton and Tatum Tesmer. Lily and Tatum not only try their best every day, but they are also so helpful, kind, responsible, and resourceful. They both seek to learn from their mistakes and exhibit a growth mindset. Lily and Tatum are also so sweet. Their 3rd grade teachers will be lucky to have them. Our next one is from Mrs. Hawksworth.
I am nominating Bryn Porter for a Principal's Award. Bryn has matured into a lovely little lady. She applies herself in art class, uses self-control at Colorado time, and has a kind, respectful attitude every time I interact with her. Thanks for always giving your best in art class and making Nolly a happy place to be.
Okay, and then in Mrs. Slimack's class, there are also 2, Charlie Pariseau and Andy Moore. Charlie is proactive and thinks win-win, and Andy demonstrates all of the 7 habits.
As a class, we voted for our May Leader of the Month. We had a tie between Charlie and Andy. Here are some reasons why they were chosen. Students said that Charlie is proactive, thinks win-win, tries his best, and is kind to everyone and shares his glue. Students said that Andy uses all 7 habits. She is nice, caring, and helpful. She also follows the rules and is a great friend.
All right, next up is our 3rd graders. Our first student is in Mrs. Braley's room, and it is Cadence Hardy, who is proactive, begins with the end in mind, puts first things first, and seeks first to understand. This year, Cadence has come in organized, prepared, and ready to do her best. She takes charge of her learning, volunteers to help others, and always seeks first to understand. Thank you for your leadership in 3rd grade, Cadence. 4th grade will be lucky to have you. Nominated from Mrs. Millville, we have Ayla Ramirez, who is proactive. Mrs. Millville said, Ayla never forgets to check her binder and turn in things on time that are due for school. She always uses polite manners and is a team player by asking what she can do to help out, even when it's not her job. Way to go, Ayla. In Mrs. Esterly's room, we have Kelsey Eschbaugh, who thinks win-win. Kelsey has that frame of mind and heart that is always searching for ways to benefit everyone. She has been a huge help to teachers throughout the whole year. We appreciate you, Kelsey. It has been a win-win having you in my class this year. Way to go. In Mrs. Stasnis's room, we have Amelia Nicholas, who demonstrates habits 3 and 5.
Amelia has had a terrific year in 3rd grade. She is curious and kind and very helpful. She always works to be friends with everyone and makes sure that she's doing her best at school. She was very impressive when she spoke at the Hall of Fame panel. You have great things in front of you, Amelia.
And in Mr. Straub's room, we have Violet Phillips, who puts first things first.
Violet has been working hard this year. She always knows to get her work completed before sharpening the saw. I know I can count on her to finish her work without having to remind her. Keep up the great work ethic.
All right, way to go, Violet. And those are our 3rd graders. And finally, we have our May 4th grade leaders. First up, in Mrs. Matson's room, we have Cooper Adams, who is proactive. Cooper is a good leader in 4th grade. He takes control of his learning by listening in class, doing his work, and even making sure to make up work if he was absent. Keep working hard and making good decisions, Cooper. In Mrs. Toast's room, we have Jade Nall, who seeks first to understand. Mrs. Toast said, Jade is such a sweet young lady. She does exactly what she's asked of her and never ever complains. Jade is also a friend to all. Way to go, Jade. In Mrs. Gardner's room and Mrs. Hansel's room, we have Emma Wallace, who puts first things first.
Emma has been working so hard over the past few months with study skills and effort in the classroom. She's putting first things first by working hard at home to complete homework. We are proud of you, Emma. Way to finish strong.
Okay, in Mrs. Oaks' room, we have Jesse Masuka, who begins with the end in mind.
Jesse plans ahead and sets goals for himself. He is an important part of our school, and he continually looks for ways to be a good citizen. He is definitely a leader who is ready for 5th grade.
Okay, and a big shout out to my speaker leader today, Alex Lazik, who has been a wonderful student at Nolly, and we will miss him next year, but he did a great job helping us with our video today. Congratulations to all of the Nolly Leaders of the Month. The entire staff here at Nolly is so proud of you. Please keep up the great work and your outstanding leadership. Way to go!